Hello, everyone. I'm Tanya Rivero. Thank you for joining us. President Trump is defending himself today from the fallout linked to his former attorney, Michael Cohen. Cohen alleges Mr. Trump directed him to violate the law during the 2016 campaign. The accusation was outlined in memos released by special counsel Robert Mueller and federal prosecutors. In the memo, Michael Cohen claimed Mr. Trump directed him to make hush money payments to two women. It is the most direct evidence so far linking the president to potentially illegal campaign activity. But in a pair of tweets this morning, the president called the matter a, quote, simple private transaction and accused Democrats of wrongly calling it a campaign contribution. This comes as the president searches for a new chief of staff. Several names have been floated to replace John Kelly, who will be leaving at the end of the year. Joining me now from Washington to break all this down is the Hill's editor-in-chief, Bob Cusack, and CBS News Washington correspondent, Paula Reid. Thanks to both of you for being with us. Paula, let's start with you. How exactly could the payments be campaign finance violations? And what kind of legal jeopardy does this put the president in?
Well, prosecutors argue that Cohen was acting as an agent of the campaign and working to try to influence the outcome of the election when he paid Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal. So the gist of their argument is that he was making secret payments to impact the election. And if that is found to be true, and he was doing this at the direction of then candidate Trump, this could be an impeachable offense.
So, Bob, this, of course, has raised the prospects of possible impeachment proceedings. How are Democrats navigating talk of that at this time?
Well, certainly it's been an eventful last few days and a bad stretch for the president with all this Robert Mueller news. Now, I think that the Democratic leaders have been cautious about impeachment, and I think they're going to continue to be, where they say, listen, we need to see what Robert Mueller finds. He needs to get this done, and let's see what the report says. But the left, certainly, and now we're in the 2020 election cycle, and a lot of Democrats, dozens of them, are going to run for president. I think they're going to be pushing their leaders to act and act swiftly. But remember, Democrats don't even have control of the House until next month.
So, Paula, with your lawyer hat on for a moment, this next question is to you. The president claims that these were a simple private transaction, these payments. Is that a viable legal defense?
Well, it's a much more viable legal defense than just yelling witch hunt all the time. Here he's trying to say that this wasn't done in an effort to impact the election. This is something that he did to protect his family. It's something he would have done anyway. Now, the problem with that is, of course, the timing of these payments. Both of these women have given public interviews. They had not really been contacted prior to when the president became interested in running for office. So the timing will probably make it difficult for the president to really successfully launch that defense. Another defense they're trying to argue is that this should be a civil matter, not a criminal one. And they point to an instance in the Obama campaign where they failed to disclose a list of donors amounting to about $2 million in contributions. They say, look, they just had to pay a fine. So even if we did run afoul of campaign finance laws, it should be a civil matter, certainly not a criminal one.
And of course, this has been a tough couple of days for the president, Bob, as you mentioned. What kind of toll could these revelations take on the president politically at this point?
Well, politically, the president is already thinking about 2020, and he's already announced that he's going to be running, even though some speculate that he won't. He has a grip on the Republican base. He has a grip on the Republican Party. And that's, let's say, if the House does move forward with impeachment at some point in 2019. Remember, it's got to go to the Senate. And in the Senate, you need 67 votes to convict. And there's a Republican majority there right now. So, but certainly this is weighing on Trump. He is certainly been taxed by all of this. And he's been tweeting. And when he gets cornered a little bit, he tweets. So the question is, I think, how close will Mueller get into the White House and Trump's inner circle? Will Donald Trump Jr. be indicted, for example? Remains to be seen.
There has been a lot of speculation about that, Bob, for sure. Okay, Paula, at the same time, the president is now searching for a new chief of staff. Several names have been floated, but one early frontrunner, Nick Ayers, is no longer on the list. What can you tell us about where the search stands now?
That's right. Ayers would like to leave the administration at the end of the year. So sources tell CBS News that there are really three primary names right now in the running. The first is North Carolina Congressman Mark Meadows, the Office of Management and Budget Director Mick Mulvaney, and Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker. Now, a few things complicate Whitaker's possible appointment. The first is that if the president wants to select Whitaker, he would need someone else to run the Justice Department until he could get a final Attorney General in there, a confirmed Attorney General. And Rod Rosenstein is next in the line of succession, but one would think if the president was fine with Rod Rosenstein running the Justice Department and perhaps more importantly overseeing the Russia probe, he just would have let him do that and he wouldn't have put Whitaker in there. The other thing we have to remember about Whitaker is it's his Justice Department. He is overseeing the body that just put forth all of these very incriminating facts about the president, not only in the Southern District of New York, but also through the special counsel's investigation.
And so, Bob, whoever takes over this job, whichever of these candidates or perhaps another candidate takes over, is going to be stepping into the White House at a tumultuous time. What kind of challenges will they face? And is that likely to make finding Kelly's replacement more difficult?
I think it is, and we've seen a number of candidates say they're not interested in taking that job. Now, a lot of people say that before they actually take the job. So I do think Mulvaney is one to watch, but I do think this is going to be a very difficult stretch. I don't believe this White House is quite ready for a Democratic House as far as the subpoenas that are going to be flying. You're going to have to handle that. You got to handle all the egos in the White House. It's a tough job in any administration. It is an extremely tough job in the Trump White House.
So perhaps Mr. Ayers was wise. All right. Paula, lastly, I wanted to ask you about the case against Maria Butina, the woman accused of being a Russian agent. Both sides say they've resolved this matter. What can you tell us?
Well, that usually means that there is a plea deal, and sources close to the case have been telling me for months that really the only way this case can resolve is with a plea deal and likely Ms. Butina getting back on a plane to Russia. Federal prosecutors had filed some pretty explosive charges against her over the summer, accusing her of trying to sort of penetrate circles of influence here in Washington, D.C. in an effort to impact policy. But her attorneys have argued that she wasn't a spy, and if she was a spy, she certainly would have been a lot more discreet about it. In fact, she even did this pictorial where she was dressed up like a spy. The Justice Department also sort of hindered their own case when they got out a little over their skis and accused her of trading sex for access in one of their charging documents. They had to pull back from those accusations. So, as sources have been telling me for months, it appears that the easiest for both sides here, the easiest thing is for this to resolve with a plea deal and likely her being deported.
All right, that's the likely result. Bob Cusack and Paula Reid, thanks to both of you.
Thank you.